Hello everyone, it is me, GamePenguin21, and today, well, we're just going to talk about this, because this is probably not going to get the same amount of attention. I did make a tweet on this, back when it was the original story, but now a new development has happened, and I think it's significant enough that deserves at least its own ranty video. Now, to make a long story short, there is a person on the internet who I will lovingly call Mr. Angry Blue Hat Man, and Mr. Angry Blue Hat Man is essentially a person that, well, decides to get angry and use the fullest extent of the law of which he thinks exists in order to get what he wants in terms of defamation and disregarding a lot of fair use. Think somehow quantum TV, but high at the same time, if that makes sense. And not high on like any sort of particular illegal drug. I'm more or less talking about high on his own petard. His head shoved so far up his own ass, he's able to kiss his own butt twice over. It's quite interesting to the effect as to how much has been happening over this past year, especially with people like SidAlpha. SidAlpha himself hasn't uploaded another video in quite some time. This was his first upload in a while. I will, of course, link that in the description down below, along with his full-on channel. Go and check him out if you want the full extent of everything that has happened between Acerthorn and himself and the other creators involved. I don't want to get involved any more than I have to, and which is why this video kind of exists. Now, why am I making this video, and why do I think that it's important enough to make a video on when originally, when I was covering this topic, or covered this topic, I didn't talk about it too much. I only merely mentioned it in 1 or 2 videos and decided to make 1 tweet about it saying that I wouldn't cover this topic. What changed and what is different? Well, to me, it comes down to a little thing called pattern of behavior, which Acerthorn clearly has filing a lot of these lawsuits. Literally having lawsuits filed against everyone from the head of a state all the way down to his own mother. Again, if you want the full extent of stories, SidAlpha does a way better in-depth explanation and in turn does a whole lot more research than I do, and I am merely relying on SidAlpha as well as the other content creators whom I have not been in contact with, but have done a little bit of research into just to make sure that those content creators are still going strong. Now, again, I haven't contacted anyone, and I merely exist in my own little bubble, but I just wanted to make this video because I just wanted to talk about it. And talk about it I shall. Because here's the thing. If you're going to file a lawsuit to try to get defamation charges for some reason, you need to show a lot of proof, and the burden of proof is always on the person who's being, like, the accused. The defense person doesn't necessarily have, well, at least in American law, the defense is very important because when the plaintiff presents a case, they need to present evidence opposite to the defense in order to counter their arguments. At least that's how it works in the American system, and you can represent yourself. Now, when we last left off, by the way, to anyone who is just catching up now, when we last left off with Mr. Acerthorn, he got the entirety of the lawsuit previously filed against SidAlpha completely and utterly thrown out of court. Well, it didn't even really go to court. The entirety of the lawsuit and the money and all that stuff has been distributed and gone out by SidAlpha. He didn't keep any of the money, like he said, as far as I'm aware. And he said that he would donate it. He said that he had all those people and stuff, and he wanted to file a countersuit. Now, I am not unsure as to how this countersuit went, whether he went through with it, whether he didn't go through with it. It is quite the interesting development. Again, if you have anything else or any questions on anything other than this extremely simplified TLDR, do consider going and checking out SidAlpha's entire series and 1 hour-long video, yes, a literal movie, made about Acerthorn's goings-on, and then come back to this video to get my opinion. To make a long story of my opinion short, what the heck? Like, how is this not being talked about more than some of the other stuff? I know that I talk about people who they themselves are not the brightest bulb on the Christmas tree lights. But this guy, somehow, it burns the brightest, but also burns himself out the quickest. It's quite interesting watching him try to use the mechanical jargon and things to essentially weave a web in order to, well, according to him, create a very well stable and well put together case. But at the same time, he sounds like a pretentious angry blue hat, if that makes sense, to use a more friendly colloquial term for YouTube. It's quite funny, considering that, again, he seems to know a lot more about the legal system than other people do that normally file these sorts of claims. But at the same time, the difference between, again, Acerthorn, unlike, say, Mr. Quantum TV, or even D. Franco, Mr. I'm going to make 2 videos, but I hate it when people criticize me, so I'm going to do 4 copyright takedowns and then make a stupid apology video, which didn't even solve anything. It's quite funny, considering all of the other things and stuff that's happened with Mr. Acerthorn, and I'm surprised that Mr. Angry Blue Hat Man did not decide to just drop it. I mean, he is losing a lot in his terms of, like, trying to get these to court and things, because normally he hasn't gone up against that much resistance, and it is one of those things where it is very difficult for someone like me, if I even remotely get caught saying these things or something like that. I can easily get a DMCA takedown or something like that, maybe, but I don't use any of your copyrighted material, Mr. Angry Blue Hat Man. I am merely speaking into a microphone and speaking out of my ass. Well, I'm speaking out of my mouth. I fart out of my ass. You, sir, somehow got that reversed, and it's disgusting. But again, even with all of the amounting evidence that Mr. Angry Blue Hat Man has against him, he still decided to file this lawsuit. Now, why did he do that? Again, I think that it comes down to his ego and how massive and bulbous it is. It is quite honestly the audacity of Quantum TV mixed with the stupidity of someone like, what's it, the one guy who capped for Earth 2 because of his quote-unquote non-legal fucking advice or whatever. And capped off with a sprinkling of the entirety of big man gamers. That's who I was thinking of. So those 3 powers combined, and you create the world's worst supervillain, who's not even that good at being evil, and also is just so not funny. And just, I am so interested into seeing how this works. Again, my heart completely goes out to Mr. SidAlpha. SidAlpha, you are definitely one of those influencers who I know has been on this platform for a while. You know your stuff, and I trust you. And again, I completely support what it is that you do. I support myself in my own special little way. I might not be able to donate monetarily, but I'm at least going to use this platform to spread thine message of maybe take an eye out for this guy and spread the word of this stuff happening. I know that I didn't make a video originally, but that was more out of respect for the individuals involved. But since this just involves SidAlpha, I think that I am more appropriately able, or I feel more comfortable to take a stance on this and say that I am for, again, SidAlpha, because, again, he does do his research way more than myself, and I am not saying in any way that this is a well-researched or well-documented thing. I am just a stupid penguin on the internet who just rants into a microphone for no other reason than for your entertainment. The man with the box turns, the music plays, and I dance for you. That's all that I do. And in all honesty, I think that this, again, is just so stupid. But in any case, if you really want to know the full story of Acerthorn, links to everything down in the description below, as well as to It's mainly to SidAlpha's channel as well as to his latest video. Please, please, please go and support this man. He is definitely worth watching. Probably more than myself. Or second most to myself. I don't know. I'm not that good at marketing myself half the time. But in any case, that's my time, folks. Links in the description. My name is GamePenguin21. Mr. Acerthorn, just no. And a peace off.